Five-star cornerback Joshua Dobson left his Michigan visit in complete awe, and right now the Wolverines are suddenly in the mix for one of the top recruits in the country. Despite a recent decommit, Michigan football recruiting has been heating up recently, and it looks like some of those front office hires that Kyle Whittingham made could be coming to fruition. If you're loving the Michigan recruiting news lately, hit that like button and let me know below who does Michigan need to get in this recruiting class? Like, who's a guy that Michigan's looking at that you just really want him to get? Could be a 5-star, could be an underrated 3-star. Let me know. Now, if we're going to talk about this, we have to start with the biggest headline of this week on the Michigan football recruiting front, and that's 5-star cornerback Joshua Dobson. The kid is the number 9 overall recruit, top 10 overall recruit in the 2027 class. He's at 6'1", 185-pound lockdown corner from North Carolina who ran a 10.78 in the 100. He was on campus for Michigan's spring game, and according to multiple insiders who were there, he left saying he was in straight up awe of everything that was there. His dad told reporters the visit knocked it out of the park. Michigan jumped into the top 5 after this trip, and cornerback coach Jernaro Gilford has already had a strong follow-up meeting with the family. They're working to squeeze an official visit onto a packed summer schedule, even though Auburn, Texas A&M, LSU, and South Carolina already have locked in weekend visits. If you look, though, Michigan's still a longer shot right now, but that in-awe reaction tells you the new staff is making a real impression fast. And as we know, in modern-day recruiting, you don't need to be the leader in April. You don't need to be the leader. You don't need to be the first-place team in April. You just need to be the leader in December. So if Michigan stays on this recruitment, you could see him be a flip later on if he does not end up committing to Michigan. Michigan could actually be stealing an elite defensive back talent from the SEC's backyard, and we know the national media would push their usual SEC bias narrative, keep sleeping on Kyle Whittingham's staff and what he's building in the Big Ten. Now, before we get too hyped, let's be real about one piece of not so great news. And we'll get back to the good news here in a minute, so don't turn it off. But not so great news. 4-star safety Darrell Mattison decommitted from the Wolverines after just over a month on the board. He visited Ole Miss, and it sounds like the trip flipped the script. It stings because he was a priority target out of Chicago's Morgan Park, but that's recruiting. One kid moves on, you pivot. Sounds like there was a whole lot more financial investment at Ole Miss for him than what Michigan was willing to give him, and that's okay. He's a good player, but he's not some 5-star game-changing player that's going to do everything. The good news is that Michigan football recruiting hasn't missed a beat. In fact, the rest of the board is trending hard in the Wolverines' direction, and the new staff under head coach Kyle Whittingham is showing exactly how they plan to build the 2027 class. This is the kind of deep dive outlier story most national media outlets overlook because it doesn't fit their SEC's superior narrative and script that they got out there. But here at the Big Ten Huddle, it's your go-to spot for honest Michigan Wolverine football analysis. We're giving the Big Ten the credit it deserves, especially in recruiting. Now, first guy we're going to look at here is top 100 receiver Quentin Burrell. Arizona State feels like the biggest threat in this one heading into his official visit last week, but that trip went well, and he's still coming to Ann Arbor and Notre Dame. The Wolverines lost a little ground during the coaching change, but they completely rebuilt it with an authentic approach. Hiring back Ron Bellamy and bringing in Marques Hagans was huge as well. These guys already had relationships with Burrell from last year. He'll be back on campus for Victor's Weekend. That Chicago pipeline is alive and well as Illinois is showing more and more talent coming out of their state. I think they were 6th in NFL draft picks from their state in the 2026 draft. So there's more talent coming out of Illinois than there has been before, and you can see why Michigan is trying to tap into it. It's another example of also Michigan's football, quietly getting the respect it earns while national media types keep hyping everybody else up. Then you've got 4-star offensive lineman Jackson Roper out of Colorado. This kid's recruitment was moving fast, and after a loaded spring visit schedule, he basically said, Michigan, catapulted into the top group. He visited April 10th and 11th, toured the campus, bowled with the coaches, ate dinner, and left saying the practice energy, the way the players and coaches love each other, blew him away. Offensive line coach Jim Harding has been all over him since day one, and Roper flat out called Harding one of the best offensive line coaches in the game. Texas A&M has been the favorite, but Michigan is surging right now and could make this an interesting battle. Over on the defensive line, rivals 300 prospects Seth Tillman is another name where Michigan looks like a legit contender. Defensive line coach Larry Black has built serious momentum. They locked in a June 5 official visit after an in-home visit that went really well. Georgia's still the favorite here, but Black's relationship building is putting the Wolverines in the right conversation along with Clemson and South Carolina. And as we continue to talk about these guys, do not sleep on the in-state movement. This is where the staff is really making its loudest statements right now. Other guys, maybe have this favorite, but Michigan's gaining momentum. Michigan's pulling up and making things better. That's great to hear. What's really great to hear are these in-state guys. 4-star offensive tackle Jakari Lipsey from Kalamazoo is trending heavily toward Michigan. Expert predictions from both On3 and Rival insiders are in for the Wolverines. Same story with 3-star athlete Lundon Hampton out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, has surged on the front after a recent visit in-home with running backs coach Tony Alford. He is an athlete, but Michigan is looking at him as a running back. Official visits are coming in June, but a lot of people around the program think that these could get done sooner rather than later. While SEC schools get all over the headlines, Michigan football recruiting is locking down its own backyard, even when Notre Dame tries to come in and steal some guys away. Now, here's the pivot plan that you're seeing unfold in real time with Mattison decommit at safety. Michigan is immediately turning its attention to a couple of top 100 targets. Obviously, you're going to go after the best of the best to try and replace somebody that was very good in your class. Tavares Harrington out of Chicago's Mount Carmel just moved Michigan into his top group after 2 spring visits and a Monday in-home. He's locked in Victor's weekend for June 19th through the 21st, and he already talks about the Chicago pipeline and the DB development reputation. That's a big deal at Michigan. Notre Dame and Alabama are still in it, but Harrington dads loves everything about Michigan. And who knows, maybe Camden Lopati will let him know, yeah, don't go over there to Notre Dame. come here to Michigan. They already beat out Notre Dame for Lopati, so maybe he can help with that happen there. So they're also pushing hard for 4-star safety Gabe Jenkins out of Pennsylvania. Official visit locked in for Victor's weekend as well. This is going to be an absolute massive weekend for recruiting, as it always is. And after a strong in-home this week, and keep an eye on rising in-state athlete Gideon Gash and a few other names like Marcus Jones who are now popping up on the board. Gash did schedule some official visits, but it does look like he may have room for 1 or 2 more, and so we'll see if Michigan is able to land one of those. After the coaching transition, a lot of people wondered if the in-state wall would hold, if Michigan State would be able to get into this, and if the Chicago pipeline would stay open. So far, early returns say yes. Yeah, you had the recent decommit. It happens, but the guys they're going after, the guys that are interested in them that are coming on campus, they're showing they are actually interested. Follow their actions, not their words. They're being detail-oriented on their visits, showing film breakdowns, strength program plans, life after football presentations, all the things that honestly, like high-level kids actually care about. Like, this is Michigan football doing what top-tier programs do best. I mean, amazing how the simplest things can start happening when you actually have an adult as a head coach. But Michigan fans should love to see it. They should love what Kyle Whittingham is doing for him. Urban Meyer just got on his podcast and talked about how great of a hire this was. I know Michigan fans probably don't love listening to Urban Meyer, but he'd have a lot of great things to say about Kyle Whittingham. So if you go over to that podcast, you'll hear that. Whittingham has this program running at an optimal pace. 1 decommit doesn't define a class. Michigan football recruiting is showing real momentum in the biggest names going into the summer, especially with ones that move the needle for the future Big Ten contention. The staff is pivoting smartly, looking smartly, if that a word, locking in official visits and leaning into the relationships they're building right now. This summer is going to be interesting to watch. That's the latest on Michigan football recruiting. A 5-star visit that everyone's talking about, a whole lot of positive momentum despite one bump in the road. If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan who wants the real talk on what's going on with recruiting, hit that like button, hit subscribe. Here we cover the big recruiting stories, we cover big weekends and stuff like that for guys, and we would love to give you more information here. Drop a comment. Who do you think will first commit? Lipsey, Hampton? We'll see in the next one. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening and watching the Big Ten Huddle. That'll do it for this episode of the Big Ten Huddle.